Some say they have seen a gigantic living being, several stories high. We're all going to die. Oh no, run if you can, 'cause Tokyo, Japan is in for big trouble. Looks like Godzilla is real, and once he gets here, he'll reduce things to rubble. There's no time to pack. Run and don't look back. Careful where you hide. Many won't survive. By now he's well on his way, and you're gonna pay if you don't get to racing. But look up in the skies, we're facing demise from an alien invasion. Yes, he is destructive, and we hope he won't advance. But as it turns out, he might just be our only chance. Save the lizard, he will make a stand. City filled with screams and deadly laser beams. A full-scale attack. Can he hold them back? This is a dangerous place. The city's a waste. Battlegrounds epic. Both sides are pummeled and fried with nuclear eyes and death rays electric. Yes, he is destructive. We have seen this in the past. But as it turns out, it's an advantage that he has. Save the lizard, he will kick their ass. The air has gotten thick with broken glass and steel and brick. The aliens are no more. Hear Godzilla's mighty roar. And so the battle was won, and when it was done, he retreated to the ocean. And if we're ever attacked, I bet he'll be back, at least that's what I'm hoping. Yes, he is destructive, partly from gargantuan. But as it turns out, you know it could have been much worse. Save the lizard, he will save the earth.
Hey guys, welcome back to yet another episode of BroBryceHealth right here on the BroBryceHealth Facebook group. Let me switch over here. Good day, everybody. You might notice that down here I've got the Skype open, and if you guys want to join me over on Skype, give me a call and I will bring up your audio. We're not set up for video today, but if any of you guys want to join me on a Skype call and ask your questions there, you're welcome to do that. I did turn off the phone line for now until I get figured out with the audio issues, and I got to do some more testing with that. But in the meantime, I just wanted to let you guys know how much I appreciate you, and I especially want to give a big shout out to the mothers out there. Happy Mother's Day. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for a mother. Thank you, Mom. And Mom, I know that you're likely out there watching this because you do watch my streams every once in a while. So, Mom, I want you to know why I'm not on the phone with you right now. I'm right here. So Yes, happy Mother's Day to all of you who have given birth, and to all of you who are mothers in spirit and in task. So there are many of you out there who are mother figures to other women and men, and you've been a mighty role in those people's lives. So salute to you, mothers. Anyway, if you would like to engage in the book giveaway today I'm going to do things a little bit differently, because this is a like a what is keto, and perhaps what is not keto, but mostly what is keto. I want to try to get this information out to as many channels as possible. So if you guys could do me a favor and share this video currently as we're doing this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I will pick a random share at random. And the more shares, the more places that you share this, the more chances you have to win a book. So I will be doing, I will be announcing which books I'll be giving away later in this hour. But in the meantime, if you guys can share this out, I'm going to pick a random share. If you share this to a group or to your friend's timeline or in a message, please make sure that you put shared in this chat, either on Twitch or on YouTube or on Facebook, and I will pick a random share message in no particular order, with no preference. And just mind you, if you have won a book in the last 4 weeks, then I'm sorry, I need to spread the love around. So if you could share it, and then Sherry, if you could do me a favor, Sherry, and continue to post in the chat that a random person who shares this video will be selected for winning the book. I would appreciate that if you could. I don't know if you're going to stick around for the whole chat, but that would be awesome if you could do that. Sherry is one of our wonderful admins in the BroBryceHealth group, so everybody give your hats off to Sherry. She's also a mom, so salute. Anyway, for those of you who are watching this, you can check out the links that I have over here in the side. As you can see, I have a YouTube channel, BroBryceHealth, and BroBryce Cooks. I also have a Facebook group for BroBryceHealth if you're watching this on some other platform. But I also have a Facebook page for BroBryce Cooks, where I post recipes, and an Instagram for them. You may notice that I'm also on Twitch as both BroBryceHealth and BroBryce Cooks, and I'm on Twitter and Facebook as BroBryce. If you're on any of those platforms where you can subscribe or follow, please do so. And also, you notice that over there's that subscribed button. Look for that down below or up top or wherever YouTube or Facebook decides to put it. If you're on YouTube, they also have that bell notification. Click that bell notification. That will definitely let you know that you know, when I'm online or when I've uploaded something new. And then if you care to support this ministry, as I call it, to make these kind of videos and do Q&As and continue to support people in private messages and help them out through their keto journey, please make sure that you visit the Patreon link in there, patreon.com/BroBryce. And if you don't, at some point, I'm going to have to find a way to support myself and spend less time doing these kind of things. So, yeah, a dog panting in your ear. I know what that's like. Sherry, what I was asking is if you could occasionally put a blurb in the chat to remind people that if they share this video, I will be selecting a random share in the chat. Someone who posts that they shared this in the chat, I'll be selecting a random share in the chat to offer up a free book, as long as they have not won a book in the last 4 weeks. So if you haven't won a book in the last 4 weeks, you are wide open. And I got a ton of books sitting here, so I'll go through those later on in the hour. But today's topic, and you guys are welcome to ask questions about anything pertaining to keto or nutrition or health. and I will do my very best to answer it or refer you to a resource that will answer it. But my topic today is, what is keto? Because I think that there's a lot of people out there that just don't even know what keto is. They keep hearing it on the news, the keto diet, the keto this, the keto that. They don't know what a carbohydrate is. They don't know what the definition of consider you a burger? Okay, I will consider you a burger, I guess. Okay. Anyway, so this topic is, what is keto? And I will go over a few things that are not keto because I think that that's something important. And I want to talk to you about, each week I'm going to bring up a topic, like one specific little item, one or two little items that are not keto, that people think are keto, or you might make the mistake that it's keto. A lot of people make the same mistake that everybody else did, and then they feel like, oh my gosh, I'm such an idiot, I can't believe, and then they get like blasted in some keto group for making the same mistake that all these guys, all the same people that are blasting them, made those same things. Consider you a blurber. Okay, yeah, autocorrect is wonderful, isn't it? All right. Thank you, Sherry, for that. Sherry, like I said, she's one of our faithful admins over on Facebook, in the Facebook group. Also, on the YouTube channel, we will have Vengeance, also known as Hellraiser, on Twitch. And on Twitch, we also might have Donna Lawrence, aka That Gadget Girl, taking care of the trolls and haters over on the Twitch side. So if you're over on the Twitch side and you're getting ready to troll, beware, Donna might be lurking, because she does that. That's how she rolls. Anyway, so on with the fun. The keto diet, what is it? If you guys have an idea of what the keto diet is, make sure that you post it in the comments here, because some people, everybody has like a little different definition of what keto is. And they also, some people impose the word keto on nutritional quality versus the technical definition of keto, which is basically just meaning that it's extremely low in carbohydrate. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be high in fat, the actual item of food that you're eating, but your diet as a ketogenic diet, a ketogenic nutritional approach, a nutritional way of living, a nutritional way of eating. Just, you know, the scientific term for it is diet. And so it's not like I consider myself to be on a diet. I'm not on a diet. I'm you know, here to stay. I eat a diet of X, right? That's the term. So when I say diet, that's what I actually mean. So when you say that, don't take offense and say, oh, we don't like to think of it as a diet. No, neither do I. I don't think of it as I'm on a diet, but technically the term is diet. That's what you eat. That is your diet. Dogs are primarily carnivorous, and they eat a diet of primarily meat, unless you are feeding a domesticated animal, which means you're probably feeding them grain and wishing you were feeding them meat. So what is keto? Keto is a very high fat, very low carbohydrate dietary approach. And it is, it's most people would say that it is a moderate protein diet, but I have seen high protein versions of a ketogenic diet. In fact, Michael and Mary Dan Eads, some of the pioneers of ketogenic nutrition, who have been consulted by the likes of Robert Atkins and Eric Westman, they have a book called Protein Power. And let me see if I can find it here. do believe I've got it right here. The Protein Power Life Plan. And they're known for protein power, and their approach is a little more protein centric. That doesn't mean that it's not ketogenic. What it does mean is that their focus is a little more on protein and not losing lean muscle mass and organ mass. So to be clear, the clinical definition of ketogenic is a state in the body where the body is creating ketones from fat stores or from fat fuel. So you could be eating dietary fat and the body is using it for fuel and generating ketones, and your body is using those ketones for fuel. Your body fat might be that fat, your dietary fat might be that fat, but the body is taking fat and generating ketones from it and using that for fuel. That is the clinical definition of ketogenic. Has nothing to do with how much protein you're taking in, or whether or not you have sugar alcohols, or whether or not you ingest refined vegetable oils, or any of those things. Now, those things are important to consider if you want to have a healthy lifestyle. For instance, I do not believe that anyone can incorporate anything soy in their diet and call that a healthy aspect of their diet. I just do not believe it at all. But that is not something that you can say dictates whether you are eating a ketogenic diet or not. Because technically, lots of soy sauce is low in carbohydrate, and your body can maintain a ketogenic state while eating soy sauce. It's possible. It's generally not something that's going to spike people's blood sugar. However, it does have inflammatory effects, so you should consider that, right? So, without getting too much into the science of what quality healthy foods necessarily are, just trying to lay down the groundwork of what technically a ketogenic nutritional approach is. It is typically very high fat. It is typically very, very low carb. Most people would say you'd start out below 20 grams of carbohydrate, but many people are able to tolerate as many as 50, 60 grams of carbohydrate. I will say that the reason why people have chosen the number 20 to start out with is because there's just a large swath of people, generally just about everybody can reach a ketogenic state as long as they restrict their diet down to 20 grams of carbohydrate or less. And in most cases, I would say to count those as total carbohydrates, and don't subtract fiber unless you are speaking about leafy green vegetables. Many people will subtract those fiber carbohydrates, like from almond flour and those kind of things. And the results may vary on those things, but it's generally true that with vegetables, the results are pretty consistent across the board. In most cases, the fiber does not get ingested as or metabolized as glucose. So what carbohydrate is anything that has sugar in it or has starch in it, because starch turns to sugar. Starch meaning grain or beans, for instance. Many vegetables are starchy, like potatoes or carrots. Carrots also have a lot of fructose right in them. But you also have a lot of starch, which also turns to sugar. There's tons of starches in vegetables that turn to sugar. So those things you're trying to avoid. So you don't use, typically, like for instance, hidden carbohydrates might be in gravy or sauces, or in some things that have starches in them as fillers, anti-caking agents. So like You can have gravy uses starch to thicken it, right? There's ways to do it in a way that don't involve starch, so it's not problematic. But any typical gravy, any commercial gravy, uses some kind of food starch, usually cornstarch, to thicken it. So we avoid grains, starches, starchy vegetables even. We avoid fruit because fructose, even though it's a natural sugar, it is a sugar, and it will require some amount of insulin to be processed. Vengeance is in the house. Welcome to the YouTube chat there, Vengeance. I hate it when I mess up in video games. Okay. We do have Twitch open right now. I got the chat open over here, and we've got the YouTube chat here combined. So you notice up here on the top, there's the YouTube and Twitch chat, and then down here toward the bottom is the Facebook chat. So those are two separate things, but I wish that Restream would allow me to combine all three, but they don't currently. There's no real easy widget for that, so I have to screen capture it. You've heard iceberg lettuce is pretty worthless. Yes, Sherry, you're right. Although it is in most of the green list foods, it doesn't have a whole lot of nutritional value. But it does have some amount of sugar in it and not a whole lot else. It's just basically, a lot of people call it sugar water. Oh, you watched my old KFC Double Down video. Yes, guys, back before I started on my health journey, I did a video where I reviewed the KFC Double Down. It's a 10-minute long video, exactly 10 minutes long, because I deliberately made it 10 minutes long, and basically put down a whole KFC Double Down, and it's just it's painful to watch. Long time ago. I think that was 2010, so it was like 8 years ago. Long before I started my health journey, and you can tell by watching the video, it's before I started my health journey. Yeah, iceberg lettuce is pretty worthless. You know what? I'm just gonna go out there and say, you know, if you're gonna eat iceberg lettuce, you might as well just eat romaine. Romaine it's got some nutritional value. Let's just go the next step up and go with romaine. It's got some great nutritional value. It's rich in calcium. It's rich in nutrients, and you know, if you are a person who likes to eat vegetables, romaine lettuce is definitely a lot higher up on the list of valuable ingredients. Yeah, 2010. It was a long time ago. Anyway, so ketogenic nutrition. If you join a lot of keto groups because you've just got the keto bug and you join a whole bunch of groups, you'll find that there are just a lot of conflicting, sometimes dogmatic and warlike battles over the logistics of what is or is not a ketogenic approach. And yeah, romaine and spinach, those are winners. Yeah, kale's a little rough sometimes, but I do like kale. So you'll find that there are different approaches. You have people who are just carnivorous, and by the way, carnivorous is a ketogenic approach. You cannot say that just because they don't include vegetables that it's not ketogenic. It just scientifically is. It's going to be ketogenic, and you can have it be still like 70-80% fat and still be carnivorous. So like if you ate if you ate pork belly on the daily and stuff, it's very easy to rack it up where you got 70-80% fat calories coming in, and it's very easy to call that ketogenic because you're not going to have so much protein that you think you're going to be kicking yourself out of ketosis. This is another topic that I do want to cover today too. You want to ask your opinion on the energy stimulant G Fuel. I have no idea. What's your opinion on that? I don't know. I'm not really into energy supplements of any kind, or I mean, I do have my vices here and there. Like I do like to drink a rock star every once in a while, and I'm not here to say, you know, that people should drink rock stars or that it's nutritious or anything, but that's my one vice. Some people, they have cigarettes, some people have alcohol. They got to drink their wine every once in a while, and me, it's a rock star every once in a while. But I don't. I would say that a lot of people would say rock star is not keto. By the clinical definition of it, it can be. But if you are one of those people who it has treated your keto like a religion and said, no, we do not allow sins like sucralose in our ketogenic way of living, that's great for you. But it doesn't mean that it's not ketogenic. It just means that it's probably not healthy by a long shot, but it doesn't mean that it's not keto. So I'm gonna be making a differentiation here between two categories of what we'll call scientific dogma and dietary religious dogma. So I mean, you might find this interesting. You might find it completely offensive. Especially if you're one of the dogmatic, the particularly dogmatic. So, I'll be truthful. I was one of those people who was like the keto police in the beginning. And as I learned stuff, I was so passionately like trying to do the right thing. And I was doing a whole bunch of wrong things myself. And at the same time, I was sitting here saying, that's not keto. And I still do point out to people that there are some things that they think are keto that just aren't. Like, you know, pistachios, they're not particularly low carb. Cashews, they're not particularly low carb. Beef jerky, almost none of beef jerky is low carb. I mean, if you look at the label and you see, dear Lord, it's just not, it doesn't just have a little sugar for the curing process. It's got a lot of sugar in it, a lot. And then, you know, like kielbasas, you'd love to eat all the kielbasas you can eat, but a lot of kielbasas have a ton of starch in it and it turns to sugar. So it's not keto, right? There's a lot of people sticking to, you know, they eat a lot of peanut butter. And peanut butter is like this touchy subject, right? Okay, let's talk about that for just a second. Peanut butter. Peanuts are an inflammatory, they can be an inflammatory ingredient. And here's why. Most peanuts are grown close to the ground. They're in these little tiny bushes that are close to the ground, and they're drowned in water, and they're left in that water, and a lot of times they get mold. And the particular kind of mold, most people who have peanut allergies are actually just allergic to that mold. Now, if you buy peanuts that are grown in the jungle, they're grown in trees that are hanging high, and they don't sit in water, and they typically don't have those mold issues. Most of that you'll find is organic, but even if you find like regular organic ones that are grown close to the ground, they're problematic because of that mold. It's kind of a toxic thing, the mold. And to add to that, peanuts, even when they're not organic, or even when they are organic, and even when they're grown in the jungle, they're pretty high in omega-6. They will skew your omega-6 to 3 ratio and raising your inflammation markers. So that is why some of us make the choice not to include peanuts in our ketogenic way of life. They are low carbohydrate. They do have a natural fat in them, and that's fine as long as you're balancing your omega-3 to 6 ratio and you're eating good quality ingredients, okay? But we can say pretty safely that peanuts are keto, but maybe they're not healthy. And I don't particularly care for the jungle grown ones. I've tasted them. They taste different. I'm not crazy about them. And that's just me. And I've made the choice for myself not to eat peanuts. My wife may or may not, she kind of goes in and out, and she got rid of the last peanut butter that she bought. But for myself, I've made this decision not to eat peanut butter. And in fact, even almond butter is like a rabbit trail. You know, you eat enough of it, it's not low carb anymore. Have you heard of keto? Have you found a keto friendly beef jerky? You know, the closest thing that I found, Sherry, to that is either Duke's mini sausages. You can get them at Costco, or you can get the Oberto pepperoni, or I think it's also called Pacific something or other. It's pepperoni stick, and it's basically the same thing. It's made by Oberto, in fact. So the Oberto sausages, the Oberto pepperoni sticks, those are low carb. I would say they're keto friendly. Again, you're dealing with nitrates in almost all of it. So if you're freaked out about nitrates, or if you're one of the very few, very rare people that's super sensitive to nitrates, then you maybe want to avoid it. But almost all of it has sugar, except for the couple of examples that I've given. But they almost all have nitrates in them as well. I don't worry about nitrates. I'm not sensitive to nitrates, and nitrates have been kind of given a bad rap because nitrates are in much higher concentrations in, say, spinach and kale and romaine lettuce. Leafy greens have several times more nitrates than per serving than Spam or bacon, for instance, or hot dogs. So I'm getting a text from my wife. Meeting with Mom and Adam for dinner. I'm doing a stream. Hey, you know that, right? My wife is texting me during a stream. Yeah. She'll bring me leftovers. That's nice. Thank you. Anyway, yeah, you've seen those. Not a fan, but we'll use them for camping or rock climbing trips. Yeah, the great thing about those is that you can carry them in a pack or something, and they don't need to be refrigerated right away. You know, you can keep them out for a couple of days, and they're okay. For that kind of stuff, I really like pork rinds, because pork rinds are lightweight, completely dry. They're not susceptible to like molding or anything like that, because there's no real moisture in there. They're completely dry. And pork rinds are just pork and salt, pork, protein, and fat and salt. And believe it or not, pork rinds are an extremely bioavailable, nutritious form of protein and fat. It's almost an even divvy up between the grams of protein and fat in pork rinds. So they're almost the perfect ketogenic snack. Thank you, Sherry, for sharing that. That's great. And over here on the Twitch side, yes. You're going to go back to your game, huh? Hey, there's that gadget girl over on the YouTube side. Get over on Twitch, girl. What are you doing? Hey, by the way, I don't know if you're a mom, Donna, but happy Mother's Day if you are. And if we get this video out there and shared, I'm going to be picking out a random share person to give away a book later this hour. So let's give it a few minutes, like maybe 10 minutes, and we will give away a book. I got a whole bunch of books to give away, and anybody that hasn't won a book in the last 4 weeks, I will give a book away to a random person who shares this video. Anybody who shares this video. So the more people who share it, the better, because we want to get this information out there. So if you're a member of a lot of groups, a lot of keto groups, you'll notice that there's conflicting information about what keto is or is not. And most people would agree that ketogenic nutrition is typically very high fat, very low carbohydrate, and moderate protein. So let's talk about the level of protein that's needed for just a moment. And I'm trying to cover a lot of bases because I really want to kind of define what keto is and then what kind of keto is not. And we talked a little bit about how like food dogma can kind of get in the way of what the definition of keto is. But let's talk about protein. So when we say moderate protein, the typical macros are going to be that you're going to get like somewhere between 65 and 85% of your calories from fat. Now the rest of it is going to come from, maybe 5% from carbohydrate, maybe. Hopefully those carbohydrates are coming from leafy green or fiber-rich vegetables, and then the rest comes from protein. So that's going to be somewhere between 20 and 35% of your calories are going to come from protein. So that means that your protein grams are going to be, and not everybody has to calculate these, but if you figure out that protein has 4 calories per gram, carbohydrate has 4 calories per gram, and fat has 9 calories per gram, it's really not that hard to get your fat percentage, your calories, your percentage of calories from fat to be somewhere between 65 and 85%. It's really not that hard when you think about it, that fat calories are twice as much per gram, more than twice as much per gram as protein and carbohydrates. So it's not really that difficult to get your percentage way up there like that. Vengeance is, hey, there's that gadget girl. Yeah. Well, happy Mother's Day, that gadget girl. Thank you, Donna, for being a great mom. And yeah, your spinach is your favorite thing to eat in salads. It's good for you, as long as you like vegetables. And I'm not one that eats a whole lot of vegetables. I used to eat a whole lot more vegetables than I do today. And the reason why was because I was originally taught that you have to have vegetables in a ketogenic approach. And I'm not one that necessarily believes that anymore. But let's go on to the protein again. We talk about the protein a little bit, but typically any nutritionist or dietitian would say that the human body needs somewhere between 0.69 and 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass. So most people would say that's going to be somewhere between like 60 and maybe somewhere like 55 to 80 grams of protein. If you weigh 100, if your lean body mass is like me, 143 pounds, that'd be your lean body mass. That's no fat included, your lean body mass. That's if I ever got down to 143. I don't think I would ever see that, but my lean body mass would be 143 pounds. So if I ate 1 gram per lean pound, that would be 143 grams of protein. And even with that, I would still be at a moderate protein level. And some people would say that's very high, but if you are working at a very strenuous job like I was when I was a stock person at Sam's Club, or if you are lifting a lot of weights, you need protein to build that muscle. Now, here's the truth. Your body can only metabolize so much protein into tissue, and the rest it has to either store as fat or use as fuel. And but here's the thing. Eric Westman, Dr. Eric Westman of the Duke University Lifestyle Medicine Clinic would tell you nobody actually knows what the actual, there's never been a study that conclusively proved that each person needs exactly this much protein to maintain lean body mass. It's just not, it hasn't been shown. It hasn't been proven. We're just merely at the level where we're speculating on it. And many people would say that a high protein diet spikes your blood sugar or spikes your blood insulin. And this is because they believe that it causes something called gluconeogenesis. Now, gluconeogenesis is a crucial bodily function where your body creates enough glucose to maintain its functions. So for instance, A person who is eating carbohydrates as a main portion of their diet, they are burning 100% glucose in their brain. Their brain is only burning glucose for fuel. But if a person becomes fat adapted on a ketogenic approach, they are going to burn a ton of those calories, 600 calories, a ton of that, 60 to 80% of that, they'll burn from fat, ketones. That Gadget Girl says, you are right about broccoli. I have been in a complete inflammatory hyperalgesia for the last 4 days because of it. I have to stay away from it. No one can touch me without causing me severe pain. You know, broccoli has a lot of anti-nutrients in it, and it has a few self-defense mechanisms that may make it something that's not a great food for a lot of people. Some people say that it's important to eat things like broccoli and cauliflower and things like that, but I would be the person that says that they're not necessarily necessary. And I've seen a lot of people who have gotten down to where they just cannot eat vegetables at all, and they have to eat just purely carnivorous, and that even barely cooked, because of health issues. So I wouldn't be surprised to see another person that has issues with any kind of vegetable. So that's an important thing to note. People have, you wouldn't believe how many people have problems with vegetables. So on the protein, I would say, you know, my approach to helping people like figure out how much protein they're going to eat, I'd say if you're really sedentary, I would go with something closer to 0.69 grams per lean pound of body mass. And if you are a person who is extremely active, I would say, you know, or extremely strenuous work or weightlifting, 1 gram per pound of lean body mass, maybe more if that turns out not to be enough for the kind of lifting that you're doing or the kind of work that you're doing. I think you're going to watch a horror movie after the stream. Okay. Yeah, my goal really, when I started doing keto, is that it is, you know, of course it's something that's probably going to help you lose some weight. But to me, I was more concerned my triglycerides were way over 300. And my blood pressure was high, and my inflammation markers were high, and I had fibromyalgia. And when I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, I was kind of like, really? You're not going to diagnose this? Because fibromyalgia is kind of like doctors saying, yeah, we can't figure out what it is, and we're done looking. We're done trying to figure out what it is. So the ketogenic approach was, it's not something new. And it's not even something that's been developed in the last 100 years, really. It's something that humans have been doing for a very, very long time, when there was not a whole lot of vegetation or carbohydrate-based nutrition available in their area. People were doing it for a long time. You know, thousands of years people have been doing ketogenic nutrition when it was necessary, and the body adapts to it pretty great. And some of you would say, I've been through this keto flu. That's not really great to me. But the truth is, like, you adapt to that much better than you do not ever getting food. So you'll eat what's available to you, and you'll like it. In other words. Is that all cruciferous veggies or just broccoli? You know, broccoli as a particularly problematic effect. You can Google problems with broccoli, and part of it is that broccoli is kind of a mutant plant anyway. But broccoli does have its own little self-defense mechanisms, and some would argue. Like John Mason, I don't know if you're out there watching. If you are, man, I would love to get you on one of these streams, because I love your posts and I think you're extremely interesting to read. If you haven't checked out John Mason's posts on Facebook, you really should. John Mason's one of those guys, and he's all out there saying, you know what, vegetables are not meant for human consumption, and here's why, right? Talks about, you know, the fact that we don't have 4 stomachs and all that stuff. He's like one of those guys out there crusading against vegetables. And I think that's very, very interesting. And I would never hate on anybody for it. And it actually, you know, it just really made me want to read up. Or before you like jump on the bandwagon of saying, you know, John Mason, you're out of your mind, really read up. It's very interesting to pontificate, you know. Check this stuff out and read about the fact that some vegetables that we eat on a regular basis have pretty strong anti-nutrients, and they have kind of self-defense mechanisms that were meant in nature to prevent them from being eaten. And they may prevent you from actually being able to process them properly in your body without an inflammation response. So that's kind of important. It's anyway, Vengeance says, I tried the bacon latte and it's delicious, but I'd rather stick to my black coffee. It is delicious, the bacon latte. Oh, you're just tugging at my heartstrings. I had one of those this morning, and that's basically just coffee blended with a tablespoon of bacon grease, a tablespoon of coconut oil, 2 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream, and I put a couple Truvias in there because that's my sweetener of choice, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now, if you leave the salt out, it will not pop the flavor of the bacon properly, and it will taste very, very tame and drab. So you should eat salt and not be afraid of it. And if you haven't read it yet, you should go out there and check out the book, The Salt Fix. Just Google it, The Salt Fix. I'll just drop that right there. Okay, it is 4:49. I'm going to give away a book. And you guys should be sharing like crazy, because I'm not doing it the traditional way. I know some of you guys are waiting up on the 1/4 to the hour or something to get a shot at one of these books, but I'm not giving it away necessarily on the 1/4 of the hour. I'm going to pick a random share. So if you have shared this video, make sure that you post that you shared it in the comments. I'm going to pick a random share either on Twitch or YouTube or Facebook, and I'm going to give this book away, and you can private message me your details when I select you. So I've got the Protein Power Life Plan by Michael and Mary Dan Eads. This is a book that is an extremely ketogenic approach. It is more protein centric than your typical low carb, high fat approach, moderate protein. These guys are a little more protein centric, but no one will debate whether Michael and Mary Dan Eads are gurus of the ketogenic community. They are by far. In fact, Michael Eads is the guy who came up with that net carbs concept that everybody loves to argue about. Wheat Belly by William Davis. This is the book that tells you all about why you should never eat wheat, why you should have never been eating wheat, and what wheat does to your brain, what wheat does to your body. Eat Fat, Get Thin by Mark Hyman. I got this used at a bookstore, and Mark Hyman is also well known in the paleo and keto community, and he's done a lot of TED Talks on ketogenic nutrition and what kind of things that it's done for people, and why we need fat to eat, why we need healthy fats in our body. The Primal Blueprint. This is by Mark Sisson, another guy who you've probably seen in a bunch of TED Talks, and he is he's really well known in the paleo and keto communities for coming up with a whole bunch of interesting approaches, and he's talked actually about how you should slow down your cardio. Like, cardio is not all that fabulous for you, and this is one of those guys that actually he's extremely physically fit, and he's here to tell you cardio's not fantastic. I've got a cookbook here, 500 low carb recipes, and I did check out the recipes in his. You know, every time I pick up a low carb cookbook, I look through it, and like the first 5 recipes, they're like that ingredient is not keto. why would you even say that that's low carbs? Because there's no definition of low carb. I've got the New Atkins for a New You. This book is by Eric Westman, MD, Stephen Finney, MD, and Jeff Volek, PhD. These guys are unquestionable gurus in the keto community. Eric Westman being the founder of the Duke Medicine Lifestyle Medicine Clinic at Duke University, and he's a guy who has done numerous keto conventions. And he will tell you all about, I mean, he's the guy that I was talking about that said that we don't really know how much protein is required by the human body for consumption. But Stephen Finney is also known for his research on the Inuit. He's done a lot of studies. He's done a lot of medical studies on people. He also talks about some of the early studies in ketogenic nutrition and insulin response. So, I've got the New Atkins for a New You, and I'm not even bringing this up in frame. I'm just sucky at this, aren't I? So then I've got the Dr. Atkins Carbohydrate Gram Counter, and this is a pocket edition. Let's see what year this is from, because that's kind of important with these, how much stuff it includes. This is a 2002 edition, but a lot of real food ingredients in here, so you can check it out, and the real food stuff has not really changed that much in the last 16 years. We've got the Complete Book of Food Counts by Corinne Netzer. She's done a bunch of these kind of books, and it's a very comprehensive list. As you can see, lots of columns for protein, fat, cholesterol, sodium, fiber. These lots of comprehensive research into the ingredients, or the counts in all these foods. Just tons and tons of commercial and raw ingredients. And then we have Why We Get Fat and What to Do About It. This has been a very popular giveaway here. That is Why We Get Fat and What to Do About It by Gary Taubes. He's a science writer, science journalist, just like Nina Teicholz, who, by the way, I'm all fangirling over Nina Teicholz. She actually liked one of my Facebook posts in the BroBryceHealth group. Thank me for the share on sharing one of her posts. But this book here is actually where we get our food list for getting started on keto. And really foundational science here that he quotes. And I will say all these are thrift store finds. They're all secondhand books, and I'm too cheap to get new books, and I want to share these with you, but I think that the information is more important than whether we get something brand new or not. So you have the paperback of Why We Get Fat, or you can have the hardback. Your choice if you win this book. But you got to share this video in order to win the book. And by the way, if nobody gets the book in the first round in 24 hours, I will select a winner in 24 hours. So make sure that you post that you shared it and where. Good Calories, Bad Calories, also by Gary Taubes. I have been jonesing to get this book into our hot little hands, and I happened to just stumble across this in a thrift store. So I'm thankful for that. Good Calories, Bad Calories. Again, this book is all about ketogenic nutrition. It is all about cutting carbohydrate. It is all about what actually caused us to get fat. Just really, really getting rid of the guidelines, which are just stupid. And then we have Grain Brain. Grain Brain by David Perlmutter, often mispronounced as Brain Grain, but Grain Brain by David Perlmutter. This book is, again, why we should never eat grain. What's happened to grain? What has happened to grain in the last 100 years or so? What's happened with industrial grain? Why you should never eat grains, and why carbohydrate is just bad for you and it's not essential. And now, the last book that I have, which I believe is a treasure, because this guy, Richard Bernstein, He is a type 1 diabetic. He is over 80 years old. He was diagnosed when he was 12 years old. And back then they didn't even have they didn't have home testing for blood sugar or any of that business, okay? And this guy has written a book called The Diabetes Diet. He's also written another book called The Diabetes Solution. And I would say that this might be one of the most important books for diabetics, both type 1 and type 2, because he teaches people how to control their blood sugar, whether you are type 1 or type 2. In both cases, it's very important to control your blood sugar with diet. And his approach allows people with type 1 diabetes not to have a progressive disease. And your disease is always going to be that you don't generate enough insulin to take care of the glucose, even the glucose that your body creates itself through gluconeogenesis. But your need for medication is dramatically reduced by controlling it with diet, and as such, you may never develop the kind of insulin resistance that people who follow the American Diabetes Association's guidelines would, because eventually they would probably become insulin resistant. Type 1 diabetics becoming type 2 diabetics, and type 2 diabetics eventually becoming type 1 diabetics when they're become so insulin resistant and their body is cranking out all this insulin that their pancreas finally shuts down. And then they become a type 1 diabetic. So it's not something where we can even say anymore that it's juvenile onset or adult onset diabetes. It's just we have type 1 diabetes and we have type 2 diabetes, and they're two very different things, but one can lead to the other if not treated properly. And we are all about trying to let food be thy medicine, right? That's what it says right over there. Let food be thy medicine. So check that out. And that's the diabetes diet. If you share this video, I will be picking a random share somewhere along the line for someone to win one of these books. No, your book didn't get there yet. I'll talk to you about that later. I don't mail off the books the very next day, Vengeance, but I will get you your book, okay? Anyway, we are coming up on the top of the hour. If anyone has any burning questions, now would be the time, because my alarm is going off and it's telling me it's 5 o'clock. And it's time to shut her down. So, y'all, if you would like to have any of your questions answered, I'm more than happy to throw that out there. And what are you guys doing for Mother's Day, huh? I do want to give a big shout out to That Gadget Girl for adminning over on the Twitch side. I want to give a big shout out to Vengeance for modding over there on the YouTube side, and for Sherry being our admin in standing, posting about sharing this video to other groups. Thank you very much. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and close up the video. Thank you guys. And also, That Gadget Girl is our one and only Patreon Hall of Famer. So thank you, Donna, for that. Appreciate you guys very much. And I never want you guys to think that I don't appreciate what you do. So I want to throw that out there. And happy Mother's Day to everybody out there who's a mother and wishes they were a mother and is a mother in spirit and in task. Thank you very much. And y'all have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Is rising and the sprinklers turn on. Let's my mind, it will come true, though before long. I'm not blind, girl, I must confess. You could scorch my bits if you touch them when you wear your evening dress. I need a glass of water, I need fresh air. I'm trying to get some loving, but the room is like an oven when you're in here. Where the smoke, there's fire, that's what I was taught. And you prove the theory very clearly when you look so smoking hot. With the fireproof gloves on, maybe we could touch. But I've learned that I don't wanna be burning you away too dangerous. I'm not blind, but I must confess. You could scorch muffins if you touch them when you wear your evening dress. I need a glass of water, I need fresh air. I'm trying to get some loving, but the room is like an oven when you're in here. Yeah. I'm not blind, girl, I must confess. You could scorch muffins if you touch them when you wear your evening dress.